All right, listeners, it is Friday, which means it's time for another one of our special edition episodes, My Entrepreneurial Journey. And what I love about these episodes is that we get to chat with entrepreneurs who are in the trenches with you, the listeners, right now, navigating and figuring out how to take the next steps in front of them. Now, in today's episode, I get to chat with a dear friend for a very long time, Jill Bunny, who's the founder of CBT Meets Fitness. But I've known Jill Bunny through a myriad of different evolutions of her own brand, and super excited to get into the trajectory that she set and the hyper important lessons she's learned within her career and how she differentiates herself in the marketplace. So let's go right on in. Jill, how you doing today?
Oh my gosh, thank you for that warm introduction. And I'm just so grateful to be here with you. You've been my mentor for 6, 7 years, and I finally made it on your podcast.
I know, long overdue, by the way,
Thank
long
you.
overdue to have you on the show, and that is 1000% my fault. You and I, we first met and worked together. It was in Vegas, as you said, about 7 years ago, and we
Yeah,
ended up shooting the cover of it
train for
was
her. I think
Train for
train for
Her
her.
magazine. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. And that's where it's all began. And then, really what's been so interesting is, and I kind of introed with this, is I've seen your brand, the Jill Bunny brand, kind of almost like a chameleon reinvent itself a few different times as you kind of shed off skin that doesn't necessarily resonate
Mhm.
with you or doesn't fit with what your intentions are to find a new brand. I'd love for you to dive into like what that trajectory has felt like over the last few years to try to find what it is that you're trying to create and how you are showing up now in our
Mhm.
industry.
It's a great question. I would say I started out as most people do when we're very young, and it's more materialistic. And I've always loved fitness. And I got into it after I got divorced and wanted to be a competitor. And I saw such inspirational women on magazines. And I thought, you know what? They look so powerful, so put together. And I just wish one day I could be like them. So that was kind of my starting point in the fitness industry. And I was just very lucky to have some great mentors such as yourself guide me in the right way. So I started out more as, again, a fitness competitor, training women, more aesthetics. And I began to not feel as fulfilled. And I'd say that mostly you get to a point where you can't excel anymore, not from an aesthetic standpoint, but as a coach, that I just felt like I could do more. As a competitor, I was going to lose at some point, and I knew that was inevitable. I hit my peak and I had to walk away. And I was still coaching women with aesthetics, but it just didn't resonate to me because obviously my brand is my personality and who I am. And I was no longer focused on the aesthetic standpoint, mostly because of my own illnesses that I went through with MS and cancer, that I kind of focused more on mental health. And that was kind of my chameleon expose of kind of going into fitness for mental health and how I've shifted in the past 3 years where I am right now.
What would you say has been the most interesting thing you've kind of learned about yourself in this process? Because so many of us, we feel that in order to step into what we're doing, that we need to be where you are right now, which is, to be clear, years into the process and
Mhm.
through multiple variations of how you're showing up and how you're seeing yourself and how you're communicating the value
Mhm.
that you're bringing to the world.
Mhm. You know, I think I just stopped reacting. If I'm being honest, I was very reactive and wanting attention, I will admit, and I just really didn't sit down and ask myself, "Who am I? Who is Jill Bunny?" And when I look in the mirror in the morning and when I put my head on the pillow at night, am I proud? Do I feel like I've lived my purpose? I've done something that is not just a check mark that, yes, I got a new client, check. My client did well in a show, check. I just didn't feel that my life was purposeful in that way. And I began to just listen wholeheartedly to myself, tuning things out and just asking what matters. And at the end of the day, it's really what matters to me. And I'm a personal brand, so I have to bring that into my business. I'm not a corporation like Apple where there's, hundreds of employees. It's only me. So if I don't show up as myself, it's going to be a reflection. And I definitely noticed once I started to listen to who I was, it didn't take a day or two. It was definitely a few years. Then my brand started to take on some new steps. And every day that I start my work, I'm very confident in what I do and I believe in myself. I have high self-efficacy. Definitely didn't have that 6 years ago. But on the outside, it appeared that I did.
Mhm. I almost wonder, and I'm curious your take on this, because I've gone through similar transitions within my own career. In well, I'm defining myself as this, and after a few years, I've grown, I've evolved, I've matured. This
Mhm,
doesn't fit within the scope of what I'm trying to communicate to the world. So now
mhm,
I'm this, and maybe in a few years this doesn't work. So now I'm over here, and
mhm.
it's this constant evolution of how I am tuning into really what I want to give to the world, my purpose. But I almost wonder, and this in lies the question is, do you think we have to go through these iterations? Because I think so many people want to skip all those steps in the process and just get to pure enlightenment at the end of the road without the journey.
Well, honestly, I don't think that ever exists, right? So I think
Mhm.
of a business, a brand, or ourselves, we're gonna have ups and downs. It's not just gonna be wake up and everything is just gonna keep going high, like it's the most amazing experience of life. And I think of it as weather, right? So there's seasons, there's gonna be storms,
Mm.
that's inevitable. There's hurricanes, there's tornadoes. We can't get away from it in life, but it's not always gonna be there, right? So they will go away and then we learn something. And during those very stormy periods of time, something good always happens, right? The rainforest happened, there's more water, from that standpoint, great things can happen. I think that's the same thing with ourselves when we go through some really tough periods, whether it's personal or our brand or business or like COVID, for example. The sun will rise and we will come out as a different person, a different perspective, and new opportunities will come.
With that, one of the things that I have to recognize in you is that really over 2020, you finally started to unapologetically own the platform that you're on
Yeah.
and just say, listen, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. And you do
Mhm.
it with such power and such really authenticity.
Thank you.
What gave you that ability to just stand on that platform? Because so many others might be afraid of being
Mhm.
judged for their views or their opinions,
Yeah.
particularly within the industry that we're all a part of.
Mhm. Well, first, I ping-ponged, I'll be honest. I've
Mhm.
inside, I changed, and I really focused on mental health and looking at more, clinical-based therapy and bringing that into my practice. But obviously, that would be very difficult to go from a bikini girl, fitness model to, "Hey, you want some counseling?" Like, that would be very difficult to pivot online, and I had to do it for myself first. So offline, I was representing me, and I was still kind of the Jill Bunny that most people knew online because I wasn't ready for the world to see who I was yet until I had that self-efficacy, that I had that belief in my skills and my strengths to do what I wanted to do. And I had a really great support system offline, such as yourself, James, with the mastermind and Kristen Crowley and my family to say, Jill, like, keep going. And I just believed. And one day I thought, heck, let's just go for it online, and I didn't think twice. And it was beautiful was people like yourself, you just jumped straight on when I made that commitment, and you didn't let me kind of revert back. There was no way I could do that because I would just be slapped in the face by my friends and yourself. So really just get some really good friends, good mentors, good business coaches that are there for you unapologetically and will make sure that this is your goal and they'll make you stick to it because it is really scary when you make that pivot. But with the right people, do not worry that they will get you through that weathering storm and that sun will rise.
The thing that you said that really struck a chord with me was I wasn't ready for the world to see who I
Mhm,
was. That right there, I think resonates with so many of the listeners of this show who
mhm,
what they might be trying to do is model what they see others doing because it might be a safer route for them.
mhm.
It's like, well, this personal trainer, this is how they're marketing themselves. This is their language. I'll just try to model after that. Or you know what? Maybe I'll kind of borrow from this inspiration
Mhm.
over here. And granted, we pick up inspirations
Yep.
everywhere. But at some point in this process, we develop that inner strength to say, no, now I'm ready to reveal who I am. And it's when you do that, that I think that's when people really start to pay attention.
They do. And it was a big kind of shift, obviously, but the right people were coming in the doors, right? So it made new opportunities for podcasts. When I made that statement of I'm deleting all my bikini photos and this is who I am, I got new opportunities, new podcasts, new publication features, which I didn't expect. That was not why I did it. It was very authentic. And it drove the right clientele to my business, that it wasn't after quick fix 21-day detox, which is completely fine. I've done that in my business, but that wasn't the type of clients that I would like to work with. I wanted long term. And me writing the way that I do, my messaging and the pictures are very well suited for the type of clients that I want to work with. And I remember a photographer here, because unfortunately we didn't get to shoot this past fall due to barrier issues because I live in Canada, but we will do it next year. And the photographer told me that, you've got a beautiful physique, but the type of clients that you work with that have disordered eating, do they want to see you in a six pack? Like, do you think that's really going to help them, Jill? And obviously I knew the answer. And right there, I said, okay, let's start deleting those photos because it's not worth my clientele. There's a lot of other Instagram accounts that can do that and provide motivation for women that are listening. You guys go for it, right? And that's what's so beautiful about the platform, is that we have a business that speaks to that specific niche and what we can do to help. And we can't all be the same. Otherwise, where there's really not that much help for a very diverse amount of people.
This is such a fascinating thing, and there's
Mhm.
a few important elements that we need to point at.
Mhm.
One, which is what you've essentially done, which is a couple different things. One of the things is like, I'm deleting any photo of me in a bikini. Like, this is
Mhm.
not the image I'm portraying. There's nothing inherently wrong with people who want to do that. And people
No.
might mistake your statement as, "Oh, you're judging." That's not it at all. And this is what's so clever about this, is what you're doing. You're saying, everyone, you're allowed to do that. That's fine. I'm not going to do it. Here's why I'm not going to do it. And there are going to
Mhm.
be people who are paying attention, who are just like, I've been waiting for
Mhm.
someone to do this. I've been waiting, because what you do is you create a platform that other people are not comfortable competing on, which
Mhm.
is essentially is like, hey, listen, I'm never going to do this again. How many coaches would be, health and wellness coaches would be
Mhm.
willing to say that? My guess is not a lot, which
Not a
means
lot.
you can compete on this platform that others are not willing to go to.
Yeah.
And the right audience will tune into that. It's not unsimilar from myself as a photographer when I say, listen, uh, as a photographer, I've shot more than 500 magazine covers. So if you're a client and you're looking to shoot for magazines, how many photographers can compete with me on that platform? Not
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 many.
really any that I'm very aware of. So
Mhm.
it differentiates me in the market. I created a, essentially, I call it a platform, but call it a battleground. I created a battleground
Yeah.
that others cannot compete with me on, and it eliminates price from the equation. Because
Yep.
listen, I'm the only one who can say this. Okay,
Mhm.
now let's flip this. If someone were wanting to do, like, let's say someone's goal, their big goal is a bikini photo shoot,
Yep.
you're not the coach. And
No.
that's fine. Just like if someone's goal is like, hey, listen, I want to shoot this major ad campaign. Even though I've shot ad campaigns, it's not the positioning I've
Mhm.
set myself upon. And that's okay, because I'm
Yeah.
okay. I want to hone in on this audience. And you've done that. And the other thing you did with that is you had posted some saying, listen, every health and wellness coach, haven't you noticed every health and wellness coach is posting before and after photos of their clients?
Mhm.
I'm never going to do
Yeah.
that.
That
But
was
tell
the
me,
the
tell
big
me
thing
about
that
that.
we chatted about on our quarterly call, which I absolutely love to tell you kind of how well I've done. So we definitely discussed on that one. And sure, as a fitness coach, before and after photos are very helpful. They're very inspiring and motivating. I will not, detest to that. However, my clientele, I work with disordered eating and a lot of other mental issues. And obviously, nitpicking at our body, that's not the focal point, right? That's a byproduct.
Mhm.
When they lose their weight and they feel great about themselves, they mentally feel great. And that's what I'm after with my clients. And if I then say, fantastic, all this mental work that you've done, can I have your before and afters? I'm going to post it. I'm a hypocrite because I've taken everything away from them from the mental health standpoint that we've worked on. And I've just brought them right back by just saying, hey, you know what? I've just posted your before and afters, which is really just for me and to fulfill my ego as a coach, not for them. And that was just the big shift. And I'll be honest that online now, I've caught a lot of other coaches, people taking other before and afters. Are they actually your clients or not? It's really hard to determine what's truthful and what's not. And I just wanted to do something different. And especially for fitness coaches and health and wellness coaches that might be younger, 15, 16 years old, and saying, this is a really cool field. I want to get into this. I want to be able to show them that, sure, you can do it this way, but there's also this way as well that I never had the opportunity to know a mentor to do that. So I kind of want to be that black sheep, as I call it, in the fitness industry and help others that, there are the ways that we can run a business.
This is such a fascinating approach because what you're doing is you're contrasting yourself against everyone else in the marketplace. If
Mhm,
everyone is doing XYZ because they think they have to. And to
mhm.
be clear, I have nothing against people posting social proof. Doesn't
No.
bother me at all. But the fact that you've said, "Listen, I'm not going to," all of a sudden catches attention. It gets people to pause. Instead of a sea of sameness, you've created an island
Mhm,
that exists as an individual concept to say, no, we're going to do the exact opposite. And the only thing I can say akin to that I would do in my coaching practice is when I go out and say things like, yeah, I had a post and it did relatively well, but it chapped some of the wrong asses, which was what was it? It was shoot, I'm forgetting what it was. It was something along the lines of um, mindfulness is not a marketing strategy. It wasn't that
mhm,
though. Manifestation. Manifestation is not a marketing strategy. Now,
mhm.
do I have anything against manifestation? Absolutely not. Do I do manifestation myself? Absolutely, I do. But the whole reason I said that is because I wanted to create this contrast between myself, which is I'm saying, hey, have you ever noticed that a lot of coaches out there aren't talking tactic and aren't talking strategy and just want to talk about mindset and abundance? Well, I want to talk about strategy. If that's for you, let's have a conversation.
Mhm.
Now, does that work for everyone? No, 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 no. There are people who want that other thing, just like there are people who want the bikini photo or whatever it is.
Exactly.
But for the people who want the tactic and want the strategy, I created a platform, just like you created a platform
Mhm.
that individualizes yourself and separates yourself from anyone else who's not willing to go
Yeah.
where you are.
And I will say we didn't make it harder on ourselves. I get that a lot. We're like, "Are you making it harder on yourself doing all this stuff, not posting, before and afters," in essence of what a lot of fitness coaches do. I wouldn't say I'm making it more difficult on myself. And before I thought, yes, I'm a black sheep. I just like to find a different way. I now realize, understanding myself a little bit better, that this is just my personality. This is who I am. It's not that I'm making it harder. I'm just being authentically myself and not following the herd.
Mhm. There it is right there.
Mhm,
And you kinda go through that, and I feel like what we were talking about earlier is you kinda go through that by going through the other stuff and realizing what doesn't serve you. Because if it
yeah,
doesn't serve you and at some point, like, for all the things this year has been, this year being 2020,
mhm,
it has been such an awarding eye opener to show you, like, what you never have to do again if you don't choose to.
mhm. Exactly, and it is a choice, right? And there's gonna be difficult choices to make, and we're gonna feel uncertain at times. I definitely felt that through 2020, and you think, "What is going on?" But I think, again, like you said, it's a pause, right? The world told us that we need to pause and think and stop being so reactive, whereas it is so hard with social media and all this information that it's overloaded, and we feel like we've gotta just push content, content, content. And honestly, I think it's value in just sitting back and saying, "Okay, well, what do my clientele need to hear right now?" Right? What do they need? And sometimes we think, "Well, serve their wants and then they get what they need." Again, maybe I flip the switch a little bit, but I'm like, "What do they actually need?" And they might not just purchase right away from me on impulse. They might read these posts for a year, but then they'll come. And that's kind of the clientele that I'm after, and how I use my platform isn't for just very clickbait and purchase a $7 program. That's not how I run my business. Otherwise, I would probably market it a bit different. I'm after the long-term approach. So it might be that a friend says, "Hey, follow this. This was very helpful." And if I can continue along that path, then they will be ready at some point in that stage to take that step and give me a call. And then we kind of go from there.
What this requires is a couple things, but primarily what it requires is extreme confidence in the results that you do provide
Mhm,
because you have zero doubts when it comes to the quality of the programming that you put out and the results that your clients can't achieve when they go through that programming.
mhm,
And you want them to take action when they know that they're ready, not when you're pushing them when they're
Mm.
ready. Because really, clients go through three phases when it comes to purchasing with us. The first is awareness. People got to know you exist. So,
Mhm.
Jill, you land on a podcast or someone sees your cover of Strong, or, they find an article that you wrote, or, let's just forecast in the future when you're on the cover of Psychology Today, right?
Oh.
Yep. So that builds awareness. But just because I know
Yeah.
you exist doesn't mean I'm bought in. And as we go into this new year, we're going to be far more discernible
Mhm.
and savvy when it comes to where we choose to invest our finances, and most importantly, invest our time. So just because I
Exactly.
know you doesn't mean I trust you. Might not mean I like you, but I don't understand the value that you give me.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have honored and really held into a long and very, very comfortable nurture sequence where you want
Yeah.
to nurture your audience by giving great value, unequivocal value, that when people think about cognitive behavioral
Mhm.
therapy within health and wellness, when they think about a coach who cares more about their goals than their own personal ego, when they
Mhm.
think about all these different things, they think you have created this position to say, this is who I am. This is a platform I'm going to stand on, and I'm going to serve you, serve you, serve you. So
Yeah.
that when you do open cart, when you do have an opportunity, they've been in that nurture incubator
Mhm.
for it could be years, but they are then
Yeah.
ready, and you have
Yeah,
the
some of them are
confidence.
years, or some of them
Mhm.
come back because 'cause they've seen that shift, right? So I trained some ladies 5 years ago, and now we've reconnected, and now they're on the new path that I coach, which is beautiful, right? So even anybody listening saying, "Yeah, you know what? I wanna make a shift in somehow in your business, and we're afraid to lose customers." You might lose them at first, but they might come back as well, which, is a beautiful thing.
And this is something where I've gone through these shifts myself, where there were periods of time where I really got into the hard, aggressive sales,
Mhm.
and make more calls in a day, and always be, I'm not going to say always be closing. That's a little antiquated, but that entire methodology, right? But it felt weird for me, and I never liked doing it. In fact, I hated doing it.
Mhm.
Okay, but the sales that I loved were when I was able to get on a call with someone and I knew I had something that would change for them.
Mhm.
Like it was everything they needed. And it wasn't a numbers game. It was like, no, you are the right person for this, and this is the right thing for you. And like I literally after calls, I would jump with excitement. You want to get to that place in,
Yes.
in your marketing where you've developed that otaku, that obsession with what you're delivering, because the impact is going to be so amazing. I don't care if you're just creating a program you're selling online, whether it's a one-on-one coaching, whether it's just a product that you're really proud of. You want to
Mhm.
be so hyper obsessed with it that you cannot wait to get into someone's hands. And when you have that, then that confidence kicks
Yeah.
in.
It does, and it's also purposeful, right? Where sometimes like, I've been there where we put something out that's not our full heart, but we're like, "Ah, we'll do it," and it doesn't resonate with the clientele, or we're not seeing the full, success of the program or the service, and what I realize when yes, I just wanna get on a call and talk to my clients, and, I'm 100% there for them, that fills my heart. And I remember going to a doctor's or going to a dentist's office, do they take a picture of us? Like, "Hey, let's take a selfie after, I've done, uh, an internal exam," for example. They're not gonna do that. But for some reason on Instagram, as fitness competitors, yeah, like, it all reigns. We can post anything. Yeah, I just went there, sorry. And I
Yeah.
realized, I'm like, "You know what? In fitness, my clients deserve the same kind of, privacy that they can have a call with me, and it doesn't have to be showcased that, when we do coach clients, we don't have to tell everybody in the whole world about it. And that's where power and confidence comes from because we've done something for ourselves and for our client and we've served them. And if I was the customer and that was my coach, I'd be like, damn, that's amazing that, you were just 100% there for me and we were connecting. And that's kind of where I've taken that viewpoint and it fills my heart and just that's where I noticed my business has excelled in 2020.
The thing I appreciate about this is it goes to the idea that we can do things that don't scale, and that's fine. Not
Mhm.
everything has to be scaled. Now,
I like that.
there are no right or wrong answers in how you choose to grow your business or how you want to develop. Like, if you just want something that is hands off and is just turning profit for you and just involves like endless sales funnel. Hey, great, go for it.
Yep.
There's nothing inherently wrong with choosing that.
Mm.
But what is so great about this conversation with you, Jill, is that what you're showing is, hey, there are other ways to do it too. You
Yeah.
don't have to adopt that methodology. Here's a methodology that actually really works really well,
Yeah.
and it's so fulfilling in such an enriching way.
Yeah, and we kind of learn where we're here at A level, maybe we did individual coaching, right? And then we're always in a Western world, we'll take the next step. So what's the next step? We'll build an automated program, do a sales funnel, hands off. And I did all that because that was what I was supposed to do, write a book. I wrote a book, right? So I was hitting all those steps, but I realized I wasn't fulfilled because I wasn't filling my full purpose, and I realized that now that I always loved one-to-one, that I love connecting with people, and COVID made me get back to that because I needed it. We're in at our house the entire time, and then you start getting on Zoom calls with your clients, and I thought, "Okay, this is what I was missing." And again, anybody listening, you can scale your business and try out those things, and then you might find what works best for you. And I will say those automated programs, you still have to work. Like we hear it and it sounds beautiful that, you're sleeping and money comes in. Well, you have to do the work to set up the
Mhm.
program, but then you have to do the work to maintain it. And it is a lot of work. And I find for myself that's not too tech literate and with all those funnels, that sometimes it costs a ton of money to build all that out. Whereas you can make just as much money and fulfill just as many people's lives one to one without all of that stuff in the background. If that's not for you or it feels very daunting, that's not what you have to do. There's multiple ways.
Yeah, my digital marketing person, I have a joke. We call them. I'm not going to say what we actually call them, but the polite way is to call them funnel bros, and it's really like we've we as consumers, and when I say consumers, like we within the business world who are trying to purchase things, have really been indoctrinated to believe that we're one funnel away,
Mhm.
or we're just one program away from $1 million. And once we have the right email campaign, once we have the perfect ad set, once we have the right nurture, then everything is just going to fall into place. And I can sit back and I'll wake up tomorrow morning and there's going to be seven figures in my bank account. And I will invest everything I have into this program only to
Yeah.
realize that, wait a second, I now have to do the work with this.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't talk about the work.
Yep.
And that's what you and I are talking about, which is,
Yeah.
hey, you can choose to do anything and you can be
Mhm.
successful in anything, but you still at some point are going to have to show up and do the work. And it's what you choose to do.
Yep.
And is this in the direction you want to go? And
Exactly.
to be hyper clear about that.
Yeah. And that's where one to one that obviously my like CBT Meets Fitness and my business, it's me, one person. That's it. And it's not that I'm not a team player with it. It's that I'm very fulfilled in one to one. And if I wanted to scale that on an automated basis, you have to really learn stats. You have to look at ads. You have to understand what's converting. There's a lot of numbers. That's a lot of work and it takes an expert. And that's not my expertise. And I realized to do all that, find the right person, like my headspace can't take it all. And I thought, heck, I like one to ones. I make
Hmm.
the money that I'm happy with and I'm making a difference in people's lives. I don't have to do thousands and thousands, even if it's 10 in a year, then yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So it's taking a step back and realizing that, I'm not fulfilling myself by not pushing where, some people say I should be. It's actually listening to what I would like to do with my life and I couldn't be happier.
There
So,
it is.
yeah.
That right there it is.
Yeah.
It's we are not, as not just as professionals, we as humans are not asking ourselves what we want.
Yep.
And because we're not taking the time to ask ourselves what we want, we're not getting what we want
And I
because we
think that
we don't even know.
yeah, and it's very hard to say, "Okay, what do I want?" It's a very, very hard question to answer, especially if we have so many things going on, and that's what I realized when I was asking myself that question that I have to do this now or my phone's dinging, social media is going, and I was so distracted and I felt like I couldn't answer, "What is it that I want? Who am I?" Until I kinda shut all that stuff off and thought, "Okay, if I'm, shoved into a forest and all I got is me, no phone, what do I wanna do?" right? And then I could really start to answer that and be very clear. But it really does mean that we have to take a step back, pause, and really ask ourselves those questions, because that's going to help us guide our business, and especially through some struggling times, to keep with it and stay committed.
What's so beautiful as I kind of think back on what we've been talking about is, you know, any listener of the show who would not be familiar with you might
Mhm,
just assume based on this conversation that, oh, maybe you're just a year or two into things
mhm,
and, things are going reasonably well. And
mhm.
the truth of the matter is things are going white hot for you. Like
Yeah.
you've never had a better time frame. You've never,
Mhm.
like, I mean, you're running multiple businesses. You
Yep.
are on the edge of creating an empire. And I don't use that word in an exaggerated sense. Like you really
Mhm.
are creating something, and it is seconds away from being globally huge.
Thank you.
But
Yeah, and
yet,
it didn't take a day. Like you said, it's
mm-mm,
been in business 10 years, and then it was, "Okay, I'm learning about CBT. I love it." Went back to school and got educated and thought, "Well, this is bigger than myself. It's bigger than just a one-to-one client. Hmm, maybe this needs to be in the fitness industry." And I love teaching. So that's what I realized, that I love teaching. I love one-to-ones and educating people on stuff that really matters. And it does take time. And again, the CBT Meets Fitness and building the certification took 3 years. So
mm,
it doesn't happen overnight, but we need that commitment and purpose and saying, "Why am I doing this?" That will help. And what we were talking about before was, who are you? What's your personality and what are your strengths? Because we're gonna need those when there's hard days ahead, and pulling at that and saying, "Okay, well, what is my top strength?" And there's tons of surveys you can do online. I do the VIA survey, and my top strength is love of learning. So when I find that I'm struggling with something or I don't get it, I just pull back and say, "You love to learn. That is your strength. And how are you going to use it today?" And if there's a struggling moment or I just feel like I can't do this, I ask myself, "You love to learn, figure it out." So my top tip I would say to any business coach or anybody that's listening to this is, take some time, Google, a strength survey, and take it and just say, "Hey, what are my strengths today and how am I going to use it?" And it can be very, very helpful, and helpful to your clients too.
oh, you thought of the question before I could even ask it, like, or you thought of the answer before I could ask the question, I
Woo.
should say, because what's so endearing about this is you still know what the process is like. Like
Mhm,
when I interview individuals who are in the multi six or even into their seven figure businesses, many of them have forgotten what it's like to be in the trenches, going through it, and you're
mhm,
able to distill down and say, "Listen, I'm one step away, and this is the step that I took today, and I hope that this step helps you." And I think that's such a beautiful sentiment that I appreciate so much that you're able to really hone in on. I'm
mhm.
curious what's coming up next for you as we kind of go into this new year. Where are you wanting to take yourself? Where's your next goals?
I would say, obviously, I'm in school, for anybody listening, to finish my master's degree to become a registered psychotherapist, because there's a lot of different legislations now, and in Canada, you have to be registered in order to practice. So, going back to school to make sure that ethically I can continue to coach and then go into the counseling route. And one of my goals, other than one to one, is to teach, and to teach health and fitness professionals about CBT and the basic skills they can use in their business to help their clients that are struggling or feeling that they're sabotaging themselves. And I think that we are all lifelong learners. And as anybody in a brand or business, if you stop learning, that's when you are going to start to decline. You have to continue to learn. Look at technology. We're always learning about what's the next best thing online, but it also can be offline about yourself and learn about you. And I think mental health is one of the biggest components that's going to be very prevalent in 2021. And get ahead of the game and start learning.
I love that. Jill, where can listeners go to be able to connect with you, learn more about what you're doing, especially with CBT Meets Fitness?
Yeah, so you can either go to my Instagram, which is at FitBunnyJill, or my website, jillbunny.com, or cbtmeetsfitness.com, and read the blogs, read the info, and you can always send me an email, and I'm more than happy to jump on a call and answer any questions that anybody might have.
Perfect. I'll make sure all those are on the show notes. Jill, I am so, so grateful for you. I
Thank you.
always love our conversations and just so honored that we can finally do this long overdue conversation to introduce you to our podcast listeners, and just so immensely proud of you.
No, thank you so much. And I can't wait to listen back and hear about any feedback that anyone has.